share on today. And one is the importance of story, and the other is the attractiveness of Krishna. So we were discussing Prema Badahari and I 2 nights ago, that underneath all the traditions of education and learning, there are these eternal principles. And the way it was described is aphorisms. Do you know what an aphorism is? Someone give me an example of an aphorism. That's nice. So, atato brahma jigyasa, which means? So this is a famous Sanskrit aphorism. Now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth. Atato brahma jigyasa. So another aphorism. How many? Soft as butter. What were some of the ones that we were thinking of that you had brought up yesterday? The early bird gets the worm. That's a thing, right? What are some other kind of truisms? Right, this is the things that a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, right? But for those of us who are vegetarian, there's another one, which is no, I didn't mean but the idea of hunting is outside of our paradigm. So there's one that I heard similar, which is, if you have to sell your bananas, you can still go to Jagannath Puri and sell your bananas in Jagannath Puri. It means like, you can still do both things at the same time. Go to a pilgrimage and sell your bananas also. So anyway, the point is there's so many stories. So one thing that really bothers me is when people say, the mythology of Krishna. And if you look up the word mythology means that it's for the sake of deeper understanding, a lie is told. If you look up the word mythology in the dictionary, there's various versions of this. But a lie for a greater good. So like something that's not true, but we kind of like to believe it because it helps us. But I choose a different word when talking about the stories of Krishna or the devotees. I choose a word, legend. And there's a big difference between a legend and a myth. On a map, what do you call the little thing in the corner? A legend. The map's legend. A legend helps you to understand who you are in the bigger context. A legend is a key. There's an incredible book called The Design of Design. For any of you nerds out there, The Design of Design. And it talks about what are the elements of real design? What is the design of design? And one of the principles in there is this idea that good design helps you know who you are and your place in the universe. There's a famous piazza designed by Michelangelo, given as an example, and you step into the piazza and you see that is there and I am here. And now I know who I am, and I have a purpose, and I have a relationship. As opposed to like in America, they have this thing called urban sprawl. Just buildings that are made just to sell crap. Forgive me, but it's true. They look ugly. You don't want to go there, and when you go there, you feel dirty, and you're like, when you leave, you're depressed, and you bought something that you're not even sure you need. It's like, this is the opposite of design. So who are we in relationship to our universe? This is actually, according to the Vedas, according to the great wisdom books of India, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, there is a design, and we are part of the design. As one of my teachers, His Holiness Sachinandan Swami says, there is a place in the universe that is just for you, that no one else can fill. And it will be permanently saved there for you. Satchit Ananda, the characteristics of the soul, right? In the material body we have earth, water, fire, air, ether. What is ether? Sorry, Prabhu.
Well, they explain it as the subtlest. It is actually considered an element, but it's the element of space. It's that subtle thing that gives everything a place to be.
So these are material elements. But in the traditions of the Vedas, we understand that there are spiritual elements. Sat, Chit, Ananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. These are the elements of spiritual reality. So we are eternal. We're wise, and we're joyful. This is our nature. Who was here for Tarana's Kirtan yesterday? Do you remember the story he told about the statue of Buddha? Right? So what is the true nature of the statue? It's golden, but it's become covered by so many things. Out of fear, they covered the statue because they didn't want it to be taken away. So fear is so often a cause of misidentification. Okay, story, legend. It helps us understand who we are in context with the universe, with time, with God, with each other. Legend, right? So stories are very important. And for example, in business, if you want to sell something, they tell you you need a story. Anyone heard this before? What is the story of what you're selling? There has to be some purpose or reason behind it. So the second thing I thought we could share today, I'm just kind of giving you the sketch of our time together. The second thing I thought to talk about is Krishna, the all-attractive person. I used to work in film some time back, off and on still, but I used to work in Hollywood film. And there's one devotee who's a film director from South Africa named Mukunda, Michael Jewell. And I was working with him on a film called Vehicle 19 in South Africa. And the star of the movie was Paul Walker. Is anyone familiar with Paul Walker? It's just getting to the edge of time where everyone will forget Paul Walker. But Paul Walker passed away. We actually gave him a Bhagavad Gita before he passed away. He was a good man, and he actually came from a religious family. But he was very handsome. Really handsome. If you want to see, you can go look it up. You can see on the internet. You're like, wow, that guy's really handsome. He's a handsome guy. Even if you're like a heterosexual man, it's like, wow, that guy is really handsome. When he walked in the room, we were on set when he walked in the room. It's like he's much more handsome in person than he was on film. And it was like. I was assistant director. I'm a professional person. It's not like I don't know why I'm there. I have the job to do and this and that. And I'm like, what do I do with my hands? Is it weird if my hands are like this? Did I look at him too many times? Is this awkward? That's how handsome he was. So these qualities, beauty, fame, strength, renunciation, which means unattachment from things, wisdom, wisdom. What's the sixth one? Fame. So these 6 qualities are called the opulences, right? And actually they can be a burden in this life. I know of one lady who was so beautiful, she was a model, that she chose to work volunteer full-time in a burn clinic so that she was surrounded by people who were disfigured, so no one would ever comment on her beauty, because it was such a burden that everywhere she went, people were always treating her differently because she was so pretty. She felt like she could never just relax. So she chose to work in a place where beauty was a non-object, a non-issue. I know George Harrison, the famous musician George Harrison, was so famous he couldn't even go out to eat a sandwich because people would steal the sandwich off his plate so they could tell their friends, "This is George Harrison's sandwich!" You know, the poor guy's like starving because he's so famous that he's hungry because he can't even eat a sandwich. But there is one person who these are not a burden for, and that is the person who owns them all, and that is God. You name any great and famous person, wealthy person, strong person, and their life is in some way burdened by these opulences. And having worked in Hollywood, I've gotten to know a lot of people who are towards the end of their career, and really all they want is to do what we're doing right now. Sit, sing, pray, meditate, eat with friends. This is all they want. They've had it all. They don't want anything else. So you can all consider yourselves the wealthiest people in the universe because you've achieved that without any troubles. Here we are. Krishna means the all-attractive one. So there are unlimited names for the divine. They say that, remember now we're moving into the realm of legend. They say that one of the forms of Krishna is Vishnu, and Vishnu is lying on the couch of Ananta. And Ananta has thousands of, he's a snake. Gigantic cosmic snake. Imagine having you've heard of a water bed, right? Imagine a snake bed. And he's always chanting with all of his thousands of hoods, the different qualities of the divine. Each name is a different quality, beautiful, story, a relationship. Keshava is a name for Krishna, which means he of the handsome blackish hair. Such a nice name. Every name of Krishna is like this. There's one name, what are some of the names of Krishna that we love? You have Madhava. Madhava means that he is the husband of Fortune herself. And he is sweet like honey. Madhava. All these names. What are some of the names? What's your favorite name? Gopala. That he is the protector of the cows and anything that wanders. Govinda. He gives pleasure. He nourishes and gives pleasure to all wandering things, especially the cows. Which means that sometimes in life, you feel like a door closes. And you're like, but I was going to go in that door. The door closes. But as a bhakta, you can say, oh, this is just Krishna's, cow herding. He's pushing me this way. The grass is sweeter over here. So never mind this way, just go this way. Krishna's pushing me this way. Because he's Govinda. Right? So all these names. There's one name. You have one? Someone else? There's one name, a very funny name that I learned. Kaliya Fani Manikya Ranjita Shri Padambuja. Imagine if you named your son or daughter Kaliya Fani Manikya Ranjita Shri Padambuja. It'd be hard to be angry and say that whole name. It means he whose feet are dancing on the heads of Kaliya. And those feet, those hoods are ornamented with gems. The gems are flashing, the feet are dancing. And those feet, they are worshipped by the goddess of fortune. He whose feet are those, that's the name. So all these names. My mother, who's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada from 1968. My mother, she told me that each name of Krishna, right? We're speaking about Krishna as the all-attractive person, more attractive than Paul Walker, if you can conceive of that. Everything Krishna does is for one purpose only. Everything Krishna does is just to attract you. Every lila, every story, every glance, because they say Krishna's eyes are like swimming fish, that he's, everything Krishna does is just to attract you. And why do I say you? I mean you. My mom taught me that every name of Krishna is expressing a quality of Krishna, or a story, or a relationship. And there is a name, like I said, Kaliya Fani Manikya Ranjita Shri Padambuja. There is a name that one day you will discover, which is a name for a quality of Krishna that he is showing only to you. And that name will ultimately be the greatest intoxicant, the greatest addiction, and it will supersede all other distractions until you can think of nothing but this quality of the Lord and this name of the Lord. And it will pull you through lifetimes, and it will pull you across the Viraja River, and it will pull you through the Vaikuntha planets and pull you to the feet of Radha and Krishna. If you can just catch this quality and this name. So Krishna is the all-attractive one. The beautiful thing about bhakti is you never have to worry about being the center of attention again. Because it's always Krishna. It's always Radha. It's always Krishna. Like for me, here I am giving a workshop. Here's what I can do to screw up this workshop. Think the workshop is about me. If I think the workshop is about me, the whole thing's gonna tank, as they say. But if I recognize that Krishna is in the center, that all of us are being attracted by Krishna, then I'm empowered and I'm free. So these are the two things I hope you can take away today from our time. Is that all right? Any thoughts? So there's so many devotees here, and we could approach this in different ways. What are some of our favorite stories of Krishna? Who here has a favorite story of Krishna that they'd like to share? Anyone? I was going to tell Prabhu. Giriraj. Yeah. The story of Giriraj. Have you ever seen Krishna holding up a mountain with his pinky? So this is a nice story. The Kaliya serpent in Vrindavan. That's a beautiful story. Yeah, that's where that name comes from. Kaliya Fani Manikya Ranjita Shri. So the story of Govardhan, Giriraj. So Giriraj is a name which means the king of all mountains. And there is a mountain in Vrindavan called Giriraj, which you can go to this place now, but he's very small. So how is it that he's the king of the mountains, but he's small? He was actually cursed by a rishi that he would diminish in size each day by one mustard seed. And after many thousands of years, he's shrinking. He's very small. But originally, he was very tall. So there was when Krishna dwells beyond the material world. Sometimes when we come from a Judeo-Christian background, we think of heaven. And heaven has a different understanding in the Vedas. Heaven is not the divine realm from the Hinduism. Heaven is where the higher beings, they reside, the devatas, the gods in this material universe, the gods of the wind, the god of the sun, the god of the elements, people like Indra, the king of heaven, king of heaven. But Indra is not king of Goloka. He's not king of the divine world. He's king of heaven in the material realm. Can we wrap our heads around this? Think about it this way. If an ant saw you get into your car and drive away, he would tell the other ants, "You won't believe what I just saw today. I saw a creature taller than the tallest building. In one step, they crossed our whole kingdom. And then he got into this vehicle made of shining metal and disappeared faster than my imagination into the distance." You know, the other ants would be like, "You are crazy. You have lost your mind." So for us, we hear about beings appearing and disappearing. We hear about gods of the sun and the moon, and we think that's so far-fetched. One teacher, Hanumat Preshak Swami, he's like a PhD in biology and a black belt in kung fu or something, karate or something. He says, a dog, you know, they just wander around. A dog can smell 10 million times more than you can. They have 10 million more nasal receptors than a human. Can you even conceive of what that's like? A dog can smell, "Oh, this was made in Trivandrum." You know, I've had this for like 5 years, you know. The dog could tell because they're so fine. So this is just a dog. There's so many of them. And yet we have a hard time conceiving that there are beings higher than us who have control over elements that we don't understand. If a dog can smell 10 million times more than me, why cannot Durga have 100 arms and be carrying these things? Well, I don't know what's going on out there. Like, I barely know what's going on in here. I don't even know how I breathe. Does anyone understand how they, like, you know what happens if you don't sleep? Like, I don't know how does my heart beat? I don't understand any of this. This machine is working by energies beyond my understanding. So these incredible beings, still, they are not outside of the material realm. There's a famous story of this demon yogi named Hiranyakashipu. Not all yogis are good yogis, my friend. I've met actually some of these not so good yogis in my life. Sometimes you read in the news, sometimes yogis are gathering students simply to abuse them. Sometimes yogis are sleeping with their students just for their own enjoyment and pleasure, and the students think that they're doing something spiritual and their lives become ruined. But this yogi, he was the worst of the worst. Hiranyakashipu, he wanted to invert the order of the universe. He wanted to become so powerful that he could conquer death and live in this material body forever. Now a bhakta thinks, death, janma mrityu jara vyadi, these pains and difficulties of this material world, how can we be free from these things? Let me surrender unto the Lord, and let me be taken into the Lord's bosom, the Lord's heart, and I'll be free from all these difficulties, because I am also Satchidananda. I am a ray of the sun. I am a spark of the fire. Let me realize my nature, my true nature, and be free from all these things. But Hiranyakashipu thought, in this body, I look in the mirror and I think how handsome I am. I want this body to live forever. I want this mustache forever. I want these muscles forever. So he started doing yoga, and he was doing, the Vedas teach us, he was doing Tadasana. Who here knows the Tadasana? Mountain pose? Tadasana. He was doing it for so long, keeping pranayam, keeping his breath controlled for so long that an anthill grew around his body, and the ants started to eat his flesh. But it didn't disturb him because he was such a powerful yogi. And he just stayed there until the ants completely consumed all of his flesh. And the only thing keeping his soul inside his bones was his desire for immortality. So finally, Brahma, we hear, sometimes in Hinduism 101, we hear Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. But actually, this is not how the Vedas teach us. The Vedas teach us they have different functions, but Brahma is a demigod. He's within this material realm. Brahma is the creator, but within this material realm. So Brahma comes to this yogi and he says, please stop meditating. The heat from your body, the Shakti from your body is destabilizing the universe. What do you want? He poured water from his water pot, blessed holy water, and it rejuvenated his form. And this yogi said, Brahma, I was waiting for you to ask me this question. I want immortality. Give me immortality. And Brahma said, but even myself, I die. My lifespan is like I said about the ant, my lifespan is much longer than yours, but when it's time for me to leave this body, I have to give it up. This is the material world. This is the nature. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Dukkhalaya. This is a place of temporary misery and death. So he said, I thought you might say that. Then just grant me a few simple boons. Brahma said, if it's in my power, I'll give it to you. So Hiranyakashipu said, grant me that I cannot be killed in the day or in the night. Granted. Inside or outside of any structure. Granted. By any man or beast. By any weapon, living or dead. Not in the air, in the land, and the sea. He was trying to come up with, using his brain, he had thought about this for so long, come up with the structure that could protect him. So he granted him all these things, and he began to terrorize the universe. Is anyone familiar with this story? Some of you? So what happens next? Premanjali, what happens next? He has a son. Tell us more.
But his son was a great devotee of Krishna.
Right. So while he was meditating, this interesting thing happened. Indra, king of heaven, he pulled together his advisors. He says, we have a major problem. This demon, this yogic demon, who's got all this Shakti, he just impregnated his wife with his seed. Can you imagine if this guy is like this? Imagine what his child will be. Indra said, we must perform the first documented abortion. Indra proposed we all go there and we find this woman and we kill the child inside her womb. Now these beings that Indra was speaking to, these are the demigods. These are righteous and holy people. These are people who their only job is to love and serve and protect all of us, all of creation. But they were so scared about what might happen from this demon's Shakti that they agreed. And they all came to the place of Kayadu, his wife, and she was pregnant. And there was a great argument that took place. And suddenly, who came? The sage Narada, who we spoke about a few days ago. Remember Vrinda was dancing? Who saw that beautiful dance from Vrinda? And she was dancing, Narada. And Narada sings, Radhika Raman, Radhika Raman. And he said, how can you judge its son by his father? You don't know what this child will be. You let me take care of Kayadu and protect her, and I'll make sure that this boy, when he is born, he's not a demon, but in fact, he is a great devotee. So he would speak to Kayadu and sing to her, and all of the sound came through Kayadu's ears. Can you just turn down the mic a little bit? Will you turn it down just a little bit? I'll try to speak more in the microphone. So he would sing to her and he would speak to her, and all the sound went in through Kayadu's ears into the baby's heart, his mind. And when Prahlad came out, he was a devotee. He loved everyone. You know, so Prahlad was the antithesis of his father. His father sent him to demon school. What did he learn in demon school? Badahari Prabhu, what do you learn in the yogic demon school? Economics. The worst kind of economics. Who is my enemy? Who is my friend? What else? Diplomacy, right? How to oppress, how to uplift those that please you and press down those who displease you. All these things, right? All these kind of classic things. But Prahlad would say to his teachers, but who is my friend and who is my enemy? Everyone is a spark of God. So they're all my brothers and sisters, so I love them all. And the teachers would say, F! Go do your homework. So this went on and on and on until finally the teachers came to this king, the father, and they said, he's going to destroy your whole kingdom, this little boy. In a couple days from now, we have a song to present to you based on Bob Marley, a song called Small Axe. Anyone ever heard this song by Bob Marley? It's a really great song. So Bhagavatam says, Prahlad, this child, was from the tree of materialism, was from the tree of Hiranyakashipu. He was like a branch from the same tree, right? The tree is so big, the branch is so small. What can a small branch do? This is a gigantic tree. But if a small axe head is affixed to the branch, that one small branch can take down the whole tree. And that axe is taught as discernment or wisdom or dharma or bhakti. You know, bhakti yoga, the ability to understand what is right and what is wrong. How do I please the Lord in this situation? Bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion, of living as an instrument to God's will. So with this axe head of Vishnu attached to your son, he's going to take down the whole kingdom. Hiranyakashipu said, well, what do you propose? And they said, kill him. Kill your 5-year-old son before he destroys you. Can you imagine? You see how it is? What did I tell you at the beginning? What is Krishna's activity 24 hours a day? What did I tell you? Just to attract everyone. This story is a story of Krishna. We'll get there in a second. But you see what happened? The time is gone. You see? We just lost track of everything. We have no more time. Krishna just attracted our hearts so that we just lost everything. It's all gone. No more time. We just forgot. In all this time, who here was thinking about themselves? Right? All those worries and concerns, Krishna just stole them. He's the best thief. Krishna's the king of thieves, actually. You know the name Hari? It's one of the most famous names for God. Hari. Hari, do you know what it means? The one who takes away. He's the thief. I'm telling you, he's the thief. Krishna. So to make the long story short, because I wanted to sing with you guys for just a moment, just to let all of these stories enter into our heart. But just to make the long story short, actually we shouldn't even, I should just stop here and have another workshop and I'll tell you the rest of the story. Hiranyakashipu, what do you think? Should I stop here, Premanjali, and do it next? Krishna. So you know what Hiranyakashipu says to his son? He says, oh son, he smells his head, he smells the oils in his head. My boy, I loved you so much. I thought you would be the next me. This is how a demon sees his child. I thought you would be like me, but you're like you. Then I hate you. He said, my son, here is wisdom. Let me impart some wisdom to you. If your fingernail becomes infected, you can try to apply medicine, but if it becomes so infected, you have to go and get a knife and you have to cut off the finger, the tip of the finger. And if one finger becomes infected, you cut it off to save the hand. If the hand becomes infected, you cut it off to save the arm. If the arm is infected, you cut it off to save the body. And if your son has become infected, you kill him to save the family. That's what he told Prahlad. Do you think Prahlad was afraid? He was 5 years old, standing in front of the greatest demon the world had ever seen. This is at the time of Satya Yuga. Way, millions of years back in time. Millions of years back in time? Is that possible? My wife and I, we renovated our kitchen. And we bought stone for the counters. And I used to think, they say Lord Ram walked the planet 3 million years ago. Come on, it's like 3 million years ago. Hiranyakashipu, the 9 million years. This is great. I mean, whatever, like this is hyperbole. This is just poetic Vedic talk. So we were getting our counters redone. What's a counter? A place to chop tomatoes, Right? I asked the man, should we get marble or should we get granite? He said, oh, no. Must get granite. I said, why not marble? Marble is also beautiful. Marble is far too soft. Well, okay, why is it soft compared to granite? Because it's very young stone. Young stone. Okay, well, how old is granite? Granite is a minimum of 500 million years old. So I was chopping tomatoes on my counter. I'm thinking, this thing is a minimum 500 million years old. And I have a problem. I'm just chopping my tomatoes, and I have a problem believing that Lord Ram is walking 3 million years ago. So now I see the counter, and I rub it, and I think, Lord Ram walked on my counter. Legend, the power of legend. So, this demon, he says to his son, do you have any last words, Prahlad? Prahlad said, you are the greatest of all the demons, my father. But you are being conquered by your own lust, anger, pride. Let's have someone qualified. What did Prahlad say here in the question? Just tell us, what did Prahlad say?
No.
Few things, few words.
He said, Gauravani, please finish the story.
You are being conquered by your own mind. He told him, your own mind is conquering you. You don't recognize. You are the best of the demons. You should surrender unto the Lord. You should let your heart be attracted by Krishna. Then you'll be free from the burden of your mind. That's what he told the man who was just about to kill him. Hiranyakashipu was like shaking with anger. He said, even the god of fire, Agni, when I lift my eyebrow, he rushes to warm my bath. And you speak to me like this. Where do you get the power to disobey me? And Prahlad said, Father, I've been trying to tell you, your power, my power, all power comes from God. God is the source. He is Bhagavan, the source of all the 6 opulences. Hiranyakashipu said, just show me him. Show me God. I just want to see him, because when I see him, I will kill him. And I will become God. Prahlad said, Father, He's everywhere, but you don't have the eyes to see. He's in the air, he's in the land, he's in my heart, he's in your heart. Hiranyakashipu was just like, he was like losing his mind, and he's just looking, and he says, this pillar, is he in this pillar, Prahlad? Prahlad says, of course he's in the pillar, he's in every atom. So he said, I'm gonna smash this pillar, and then when you see that he's not in there, then I'll kill you with my own hands. And he took his fist and he smashed the pillar. And from inside the pillar came the most terrifying, roaring sound that the world had ever heard. Smashed open, and from inside the pillar, what did he see? Narsinga. Someone describe Narsinga for me. So he has the head, the tail, certain claws of a lion, but the body of a man. So he's not man and he's not beast. Hiranyakashipu is like, he's looking at his list. Oh, okay, I still got like 6 here, like, uh-oh. It's described that this great demon king, who was such a fierce warrior, when he heard the scream of Narsinga, that he went into this protective position with his shield. Bhagavatam describes this, a shield that looks like this. He covered his body and he started spinning his sword in all directions because he didn't know what happened. It was just like a defensive, he didn't know what was going on. And then he sees Narsinga and they begin to battle, Narsinga and Hiranyakashipu. They say that the feeling that Narsinga had towards Prahlad was like a mother lion protecting her cub. Now, I once asked a holy person, why did he wait? Why couldn't he just come? Okay, look, you have very bad intentions, sir. I'm sorry. You're going to hurt your kid. Let's just save everyone all the trouble, Why is it that holy people have to go through difficulties? Why once in this story, Prahlad is thrown from a cliff. Before Hiranyakashipu decides to kill him with his own hand, he tells his guards, throw him from a cliff. Just throw him. Like garbage. And Prahlad, halfway down, Krishna catches him. Why halfway down? Why not at the top of the cliff? Why does God do this? Why does he wait? Why does he wait? Why after, So there's a few explanations, and one is that Krishna's a person. Krishna's a person. And he sometimes likes to be the hero. And he likes it when his devotees say to him, Krishna, you saved me. Krishna's a person. Another reason is that for Prahlad, he was never afraid. It's not that Prahlad lost faith in God when he fell off the cliff. Prahlad thought, just see the Lord's plan, inconceivable. My Lord's attractive in every way, his inconceivable plan. But I have full faith that he will protect me. And then Krishna came. Right? It glorifies the bhakta that they go through difficulties. There's so many stories like that. Difficulty, difficulty, difficulty. And everyone thinks, surely his faith will break. Just like in the Old Testament, the story of Job. Anyone familiar with the story of Job? So many difficulties, but still he just refused to lose his faith. He refused to lose his faith, no matter what. I have faith in God. And people say, you can look at this, what happened? You lost all your money, your family is destitute. I have faith in God. He gets eaten by a whale. I have faith in God. Like, it's just whatever. He refused to give up faith. Prahlad was like that. He once threw Prahlad in a pit of snakes, which was the most terrifying place in the kingdom. They would throw down criminals down there, and they'd watch them just get, paralyzed by the venom and just like die, and the snakes would just eat them. And Prahlad falls in the pit of snakes. And you know what Prahlad thinks? Oh, hello, brothers, sisters, my friends. How are you? How's your auntie? Have you eaten enough today? And the snakes are like, yeah, it's stuff down here in the hole, The snakes just see Prahlad as their brother and sister because Prahlad's heart was pure. They just saw him as their friend. So this great battle is going on between Narsinga it's incredible. You can see, if you go on the internet, and this is what the internet is good for, look up Nara Simha on the internet. You'll see all images of Narasimha. Incredible. My friends, even the internet was just designed to attract you to Krishna. So, incredible battle, and then all of a sudden, what happens? Narasimha grabs this demon, and he starts dragging him toward the front of the palace. And as he's dragging him, this demon realizes it's dusk. It's not day, and it's not night, it's dusk. I don't know what expression he used, but it was like, oh crap. So he's like dragging him, and he took him, and he lifts him up onto his lap. He sits, it's dusk. He sits where? In the portico. He sits like in the courtyard, the entrance to the palace. Is it inside the palace? Yes. Is it inside the palace? Well, no, because it's outside. It's not inside and it's not outside. It's the courtyard. It's the portico, the entranceway. And Hiranyakashipu's like, his list is getting shorter and shorter, Pulls him on his lap. The lap is not on the land, and it's not in the air, and it's not in the sea. And Narasimha uses his nails. And if you know, nails even grow after someone dies, nails keep growing. Nails are not living and they're not dead. They're just their own thing. And as my teacher Radhanath Swami says, he performed the first documented gastrointestinal surgery. He was so angry at all the torture that this demon had put, not just on Prahlad, but the world. He took his entrails and he garlanded himself with the entrails. He was so angry. Everyone was afraid to approach him. But Prahlad, 5 years old, and he just came to Narasimha and he said, "My Lord, you are so beautiful and so terrifying. Please, I have one prayer. Please don't take anything my father did seriously. He just was confused by his pride and his ego." It's interesting how the bhaktas, the devotees, in any tradition, Jesus, same prayer. Everyone knows the prayer of Jesus on the cross. Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. Right? That's very different than the way I see the world. I see the world. I hope that guy gets what's coming to him. It's like how I see, That guy cut me off. I'm driving in my car, Where does he think he's going? But that's not how a bhakta sees the world. A bhakta sees everyone in their highest. She sees everyone. Even, this is why bhaktas are vegetarians. Because everyone, even the plant, even the insect, everyone, oh, this is a child of God. Oh, this is a devotee of the Lord. Every creature, everyone, oh, they're all devotees of the Lord. So this is how Prahlad saw everything. So when Narasimha heard Prahlad's voice, you know what he did? He immediately lost his anger and he put Prahlad on his lap and he did what a mama lion does to her babies. Cleaning his hair, and, like with her tongue. He began to purr. Bhattacharya Prabhu says, purring Narasimha. Imagine what that sounds like. Beautiful. So this legend, this story, attracts our heart. And it also helps us to understand all the different facets of our life. So there's unlimited stories like this. But going back to the discussion, and maybe I can end with this, the discussion that Prema and Bhattacharya Prabhu and I were having is that everything valuable is based on eternal principles. So these stories, we must tell them in our lives. Stories, it's so important. The way we teach our children, the way we teach each other, the way we interact with others. Story is so powerful. But we should remember that the eternal principle behind story is that stories attract our hearts. They get us to step outside of our minds and our kind of like controlling attitude of things. And we begin to just flow and listen. That listening is the beginning of the processes of devotion. Shravanam, listening. So stories, they soften the heart and they bring us into the right kind of mood to begin our devotional lives. And remember, ultimately, what is the principle behind everything? Krishna attracting everyone constantly. So stories are attractive because Krishna is attractive. And if we learn to use the stories that we tell, not just for selling products in business or impressing a colleague or, whatever. If we learn to tell stories and we pray, Krishna, in some way, may this story reflect your attractive nature. And as I tell the story about my product, whatever, say you're starting a new company or a startup of a new, so you're telling your story, and you pray to Krishna, let this story reflect your beauty in some way, and let people be attracted to you through my story. Your life becomes perfect. You're like Prahlad. And we can become fearless in the shade of the Lord and his devotees. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you being here and your kind attention. And again, I want to thank all the organizers of this beautiful festival, starting with His Holiness Indradumna Swami, who's here. He's a long-time devotee of Narasimha, because on his many adventures, he's had to take shelter of Narasimha to protect him from many, many difficulties. Maybe one day we can get him to regale us with the different adventures. Maharaj is the one who should be doing a storytelling workshop. He's the best storyteller. He's traveled down the Amazon River. He's traveled in war zones. He's traveled in jungles. Seen ancient lost temples. It would be a great honor to hear from him. Hare Krishna. So we'll see you this evening for more. So I'm not gonna sing right now because we have our band rehearsal right now. So we can prepare properly for tonight. It's better if we use our time to rehearse. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Hari.